Everyone, it's Signe Whitson. I am a school counselor and also the author of the book 8 Keys to End Bullying, Strategies for Parents and Schools, as well as the 8 Keys to End Bullying activity book for young people. So today I want to talk to you about how to listen so that kids will talk to you about bullying situations. In the last several years of working as a school counselor and also giving presentations around the United States and Canada, I've had lots of great opportunities to speak with parents as well as with kids. And one of the observations that really stands out to me the most is that parents are usually very, very eager to talk to their kids about bullying. But kids, on the other hand, are almost as eager to avoid any kind of conversation with their parents about peer conflict or bullying of any kind. And honestly, the more parents pry, the more kids withdraw. The more parents push, the more kids push back with excuses, with minimizations, with abrupt subject changes, with stonewalling, with silence, and even sometimes complete denial that a peer problem even exists, even when the signs and the symptoms are apparent that a child is really, really in some turmoil over a situation with a friend or a frenemy. So the question becomes, why is it that so many young people are so loath to speak to their caregivers about bullying? And when I ask students this question, when I try to go right to the source, I usually get one of two answers. The first is if I tell my parents, they're going to make a big deal out of it and they're going to tell everybody I know. And the second, which is a variation of the first, is if I tell my parents, they're going to rush into school. They're going to demand a meeting with the principal or with my teacher or with the other kids' parents, and my life is only going to get worse. So, what is it that parents, caregivers, trustworthy adults, and even teachers can do to help a young person feel safe enough to confide in them about a bullying situation? One of the things I always tell kids is that it's important to reach out. We want to teach kids to handle rudeness on their own. We want to teach kids to know what to do when someone is mean to them independently and with some dignity. But when it comes to handling bullying, we need kids to be able to reach out to trustworthy adults. Since bullying involves an imbalance of power, they usually need someone else outside of their circle, someone with the authority of an adult to help them through. But how can we make our kids feel supported without feeling embarrassed or feeling endangered when they talk to an adult about peer conflict and bullying? So again, when I go to kids and I ask them, what is it that you want your parents to do? Without fail, they tell me, I just wish they would listen. And one of my favorite memes that I always share with parents is one easy to find on Google that says the letters in the word listen are the exact same as the letters in the word silent. And it's an obvious one, but also a really powerful one. And to know that that's exactly what your young person needs and wants more than anything else is just for you to tune in, listen, and do it with some silence at first. And then what young people tell me is that beside the listening, they do crave adult advice. They are looking for your guidance, but they want adults to help them try to figure it out on their own and try to take action on their own first before adults would step in and do something like rushing into school. So what follows are 5 guidelines that I've developed through my work and through lots and lots of conversations with young people, as well as their parents, on how to listen well and respond in a way that will help a child feel safe enough to keep talking about bullying and to make the choice to tell you again about peer conflict in the future. So step 1, maintain calm. In other words, avoid freaking out. First and foremost, when a young person takes the leap of faith that it takes for them to talk to you about a bullying situation, try to stay calm, try to avoid freaking out. The dynamics that they describe might be very, very run of the mill, or they could be entirely appalling. Most likely they're somewhere in between those two extremes. But either way, your best role as a helpful adult is to listen well and respond as if the situation is completely manageable. Because when we freak out, when we are appalled, we send kids this message, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, that this problem is unsolvable. This problem really is unsurmountable. If we, on the other hand, stay calm and act like whatever it is the child is telling us, we can totally handle, we can take this walk with them, we go a very, very long way in shaping the child's attitude as they move forward on how they're going to cope with and believe that they can solve this particular peer problem. So number one, maintain calm, avoid freaking out. And then the second step that I advise to all parents is to express sympathy to kids. Something as simple as "I'm really sorry this is happening to you" goes a long, long way in signaling to the young person that the dynamics that they just described to you are not just a normal part of growing up. That being on the receiving end of cruelty is not something that they have to just accept. It's not necessarily a part of their everyday school life. We want them to know that we feel bad that they've been on the receiving end of cruelty. It's plain, simple, honest, and effective. Expressing sympathy just, with a few basic words. And then what I like to do is follow that up very quickly with thanking the child. So that's step 3. And I'm really thanking the child for 2 things. The first is I want to acknowledge to the child how difficult it is to talk to adults about bullying. And I want to thank them for having the courage to come to me. Because I know it's hard, and I know they face repercussions, and they know that it's embarrassing to admit that someone is picking on you, and I know that they don't want to be weak. So I express gratitude for that, and then I also want to express to kids that I'm grateful they told me, because now that I know, I'm able to help them. I can do something about it. Most of the time, bullying doesn't happen in front of adults. It happens in the hallways. It happens on the bus. It happens in the locker room. It happens at lunch. It happens online. Basically, kids who bully are smart enough to not do it when adults are around. And the older kids are, the more savvy they get in being covert and hiding their actions. So if a child doesn't trust me enough to tell me, I'm not able to walk with them and help them and coach them and support them in doing something about it. So that's really the second reason that I want to make sure that I always thank a child for having the courage to tell me and to tell me so that I can help them do something about it. And then the fourth step, and I emphasize that this is sort of, it doesn't have to be necessarily a paint by numbers linear process. Some of these stages blend together, but I really want you to maintain calm, express sympathy, and thank the child in some order before you rush into number 4, which is encourage problem solving. I am a social worker by background. I'm a therapist. I'm a counselor. My job, my pride is in helping kids solve problems. But I also know that when I rush in to solve a problem, when I give advice at the very beginning, first of all, I'm forgetting that whole silent thing. I'm not listening because I'm too quick with my own words. But second of all, I'm disempowering the child. And I don't mean that in sort of a psychobabble way. I mean it very specifically to the problem of bullying. Bullying is a dynamic that takes away a child's power and makes them feel helpless and sometimes hopeless. And when adults rush in and solve the problem for them, it leaves kids in that powerless position. So the fourth thing that parents can do to really support kids is to encourage kids to problem solve on their own. I know that there are some kids that when I sort of put it back on them and say, what would you like to do? Or what do you hope can happen in this situation? They get a little frustrated, especially if they're younger, and they say, I don't know, I want you to tell me. And I support that. I I let kids know that I will help you get through this. Every problem has a solution and I will help you find it. But I still put it right back on them with what their goals are. What do they think are some good solutions to keep the power in their hands? Now, it's also true that some kids will come up with terrible ideas when it comes to how to handle bullying. I'll say, hey, he tripped you in the hall. What do you think you should do? And the young person will say to me, well, I think I should trip him back, or I think I should punch him in the face. And what I do is I just write that down along with all of the other hopefully better ideas that they're giving me while they're brainstorming. Because again, I want the child to feel like they've got some choices, they've got some ideas. And after they sort of brainstorm all the different thoughts that come to their mind, then we will go back and we will edit the list and we will take out any idea that will make their life worse, that is aggressive, that violates the rights of other people, that will get them into some sort of trouble. But again, this problem solving with giving kids a sense of control and a sense of power in their own lives, helping them think through ideal solutions is critical in helping a child feel supported and helping them feel like coming to an adult was a good idea, not something that sort of kept them in a powerless position. And then number 5, 5 is all about following up. So we know statistically that by the time a child approaches an adult and asks them for their help with a bullying situation, usually the child has been thinking of what they can do. They've tried all the obvious things, and it hasn't worked. That's why they finally are showing the courage to come to you. So in other words, handling bullying isn't easy. And it may be that even though you've gone through your problem-solving list, plan A didn't necessarily work. So the 5th step is about following up, going back to the child, checking in with them the next day, the next week, and just saying, how's it going? Did you try laughing it off? Did you try this solution? Did you try hanging out with some other kids, or whatever it is that you worked out with the child? There's a million options here. And have another conversation with the child. Talk about what went right or talk about what went wrong, and make sure you've got plan B and plan C and maybe even plan D in your pocket, knowing that peer conflict is tough. Making bullying stop, there's no magic wand, no magic bullet to it, and it might take a couple different tries before we get it exactly correct. But following up helps a child fine-tune their approach, but most importantly, it helps the child feel supported. It makes it feel like by coming to their parent or their counselor, or their teacher, whoever you are in a child's landscape, that you weren't just crossing something off on your to-do list, have this conversation with Johnny. You actually care enough to follow up and go back and support that child in a continuous way.